was,
Sorry.
yeah. Um, I was standing in line at the old book desk, which was on the other side of the library back in the day. And there was this group of girls there, and I thought it was probably a brownie troop. And then they all started talking about, mom, and it turned out it was the Yarmosky quadruplets, who who later all went to Monument and later all ran the 4x400 relay together, which was interesting. But there they were, I thought, arguing among themselves. I just thought it was a Girl Scout troop, and there was their leader, and they were all one family.
It's so
But
fun.
the other thing was that back probably in the late 80s, I'm not 100% sure, the very first, well, the summer reading's been going on forever, but they wanted to have an ice cream social. And my wife made the ice cream formula, and we brought our White Mountain hand crank ice cream maker over. And for about 15 to 20 people, we were able to make ice cream. As the years went on, that became impossible because the numbers from that first year grew. We had two or three electric machines going that other parents had brought. But then it grew, so I think they had to get the ice cream from somebody else. But
Yeah, and the ice cream social is a very popular event at the library. And like what you said, it has grown. Our summer reading program and that ice cream social has grown quite a bit. And it's a lot of fun for families to come and attend. But thank you for kicking it off with homemade ice cream. I mean, what a great history this event has had.
well, it was nice, and it was a small group that first year, but it grew tremendously.
It's great. So, what books do you enjoy reading? And are you reading anything special tonight?
Well, mostly I read mysteries, thrillers, detective novels, that kind of stuff. But I throw in other things too. But tonight, I happened to attend at my wife's behest last night. I went to the bookstore where they were having this 36 writers, 36 or 7 writers contributed stories without having any idea how it was going to turn out. And last night, 3 of them, including um, what's her name, who writes all the magic magic treehouse books,
Oh,
the three Mary Pope Osborne.
Osborne.
There were three of the writers who are in this book were there, and they said the first time they knew how the book was put together and how their stories fit in was when they actually got a copy of the book in their hands. So tonight, I'll be starting this.
That's great. That's great. Any favorites that you recommend that you
Well,
just
there are books I read that are formulaic, and it's the same author has the same characters, and they do stuff, and they're fun to read. C.J. Box from out in Wyoming is one, and Louise Penny. But there's some authors from right around here, in Vermont particularly. Bajalian, everything he writes is good. Archer Mayer, kind of formulaic, but from Brattleboro. Um, and Howard Mosier, he's not living any longer, but he wrote some great stories from there. And then somebody from near here who passed away 2 or 3 years ago, Charles McCary, um, also has written some wonderful books. And you just talk to Matt at the bookstore because he even mentioned Matt in one of his books.
Oh wow, that's fun.
So, but there's lots of other writers. I like the ones where sometimes a little extra legal, but there's people kind of helping make other people's lives right, and it started with a writer from the 50s and 60s and maybe 70s. Um, uh, blanking on his name. Oh, John McDonald.
Mhm.
He had a character, Travis McGee, and Travis helped solve people's problems along with a sidekick. Um, James Lee Burke has a character, David Robichaux, who also works with another guy and solving people's problems, ultimately coming out right, but maybe not a little extra legal along the way. So
That's great. That's a lot. That's a lot. I understand you keep a log of books that you've read over the years.
yeah, just since 2012.
Oh, well, that's remarkable. Do you know how many books you have in your log?
Yeah, I just went over 1900.
Wow, congratulations. That is amazing.
So
1900 books since 2012. That's impressive.
well,
That's
it's a good thing I keep it because one time I was reading a John Grisham book and I went to put it in my log and I'd already read it 5 years earlier.
Oh, that's funny. That's
It was
funny.
good the second time too, but
Yeah, right. Sometimes books are worth rereading twice. Well, one last quick question, so we can move on to our next host. But when you run or hike, do you ever listen to audiobooks, or is it all sitting and reading?
no, it's all sitting and reading. I've never figured out, well, one year when I was driving to Connecticut for work, I was trying to do an audiobook, but I was focusing too much on things I had to do at work and not
Yeah.
focusing on the book. So no, I'm not plugged in at all.
Okay. Yeah, good. Well, I'm impressed with your all the reading and in your record keeping of your reading. I think that's
Thanks.
it's very impressive. Well, thank you for being with us tonight, and we hope that you enjoy your new book from that you purchased last night. And we also want to thank you for your service to our Lennox community.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Next, I would like to introduce Team Hulse, Jillian and George Hurst, who are being joined by family member Millie. Jillian, George, who's 4, and Millie, who's 10, and their family moved back to Jillian's hometown of Lenox from New York City during COVID. Jillian was very excited to share all that the Berkshires has to offer with her 2 children and husband. Jillian is an actor, gardener, voracious reader, and is currently a playgroup leader with South Berkshire Kids. George, age 4, is a Morris Elementary student with a fondness for superheroes and Super Mario. Millie, age 10, participates in chorus, attends Morris Elementary, and loves to visit the library with her friends. Team Hulse loves to read, listen to audiobooks, find a story walk, or visit the Lenox Library. Well, hello, Jillian, George, and Millie. Thank you for hosting the book ball tonight. We're so excited to have you here. How are you all?
We're doing great. Thank you for having us.
Good to see you there. When we were planning the book ball, Jillian, you provided me with 2 personal quotes about what the library means to you. And in those quotes, Jillian, you said that the Lenox Library has been a home away from home since before you can remember. And you said, I treasure my childhood memories at the Lenox Library, and I'm so happy to make it a part of my children's lives. And the other quote you provided was George said his favorite thing about the library is that he gets to color there. So, I was thinking about you and your family and the strong generational appreciation for the Lenox Library. I count at least 3 generations. Your father has been serving on the Lenox Library Association board for the past 6 years. Your parents introduced you to the library as a child, and now you, in turn, are introducing your children to the library. So it's obvious that the library plays a really important role in your family and in your family traditions. I'm just wondering, can you share a story or 2 about your childhood memories at the library?
Yes. I started going to the library. My mom took me to the baby and toddler programs in the 80s at the library, which was fun. I started taking George to those. Hold on, it's almost your turn. Mrs. Cooper was the youth librarian. It's okay. Come on and go. Lost George.
That's okay.
Mrs. Cooper was the youth librarian when I was a kid, and she was the first person I really engaged with about books. Like when I learned to read independently, she would recommend books she knew I would like. Like she showed me where the Arthur Burke books were, and always asked me what I was reading, what I liked. She also showed me how to reshelve books and put me to work when I wanted to help. So I always felt like a big part of the library, like I was helping there day to day. And another memory I thought of that I loved was we always went to see David Grover at the library. And I took part, he had an informal circle time for a little while. I was really young, like 3 or 4. And my parents took me and we got to request songs each week. He would ask us each what we wanted him to play the next week. Which was really fun. I would think about it all week. I remember being like, what am I going to ask him to play? So
That's so fun. Those are wonderful memories, and wonderful how involved you have been since childhood. And here you get to continue that great tradition. And what better place than your local Lenox Library to do that? That's wonderful. So George and Millie, is George going to come back?
He might come back.
All right. Well, no pressure. We'd love to have him, but I'd love Oh, now we lost Millie too.
Now we
Well,
lost Millie.
when they come back, we'd love to hear about what they love about the library and if they have anything they want to share with us.
That's okay. Why don't you tell us what you love about the library?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us what you love about the library.
I love about the library. Gosh. Okay. Well, I love the books.
Good.
Walk there from school. Yeah.
Oh, you can walk from school and you like to come with friends, right?
On Fridays and sometimes Tuesdays.
And you come after school and read and explore new things.
And do our homework sometimes.
Oh, good. And you do your homework. That's great. It's a good place to do homework because then if you have questions, do you ever ask the librarians to help you with your homework? No, but it's a good place. It's a good community place to go to do your homework. That's great. George, what do you like about the library? Do you have anything to tell us?
I like the books.
You like the books and you like to color, I understand.
George also loves the toys in the youth section and is often making toy soup for the staff.
Yeah, the staff, the youth librarian, the youth staff does a really terrific job at making sure they put out new toys. They always clean the toys. They always put out, age appropriate toys, maybe toys that relate to the time of year. They're really, 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 really good at what they put out for the kids. And you can see that because so many children and families return over and over and over again because it never gets boring. It's always thrilling. So,
No.
all right. So what are some of your favorite books? How about if you each give me your favorite book?
George, you want to share your book first? What book is this that you picked out?
I'm gonna figure it out. You did.
Okay.
What's that book? I
Tell us
can't see. It
about
says Mother Bruce. Why do you like that book, George?
Why do you like it? What do you like about it?
Because the ducklings follow them.
You like the ducklings following Bruce around?
Yeah.
The duck. That's great. That's great. And Millie, what about you, hun?
I like Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Wow. Very good. So is that your first Harry Potter book that you read?
No, it's the 8th one.
The 8th one. Wow. Good for you. Because those are big books. Good job. Good job. Well, I want to say thank you, Jillian, George, and Millie so much. It thrills us that you're continuing to cherish the library and generation after generation. And that type of behavior helps both your family and our community build a better future for all. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
You're welcome.
you.
And now our very own Lenox Library Director, Katie O'Neill. So prior to joining the Lenox Library team in 2019, Katie served as director at the Stockbridge Library Museum and Archives and worked at the Westfield Atheneum, as well as the Los Angeles Public Library. She earned her Master's of Library and Information Science at the University of California, Los Angeles, and a Bachelor's of Arts in English and American Literature and Language at Harvard University. Recognized by Berkshire Magazine and Berkshire Community College's 40 Under 40 for her contributions to life in the Berkshires, Katie's also a member of the Elizabeth Freeman Center's Community Engagement Committee. But most importantly, Katie is a mom of 2 awesome kids. So welcome, Katie. Thank you so much for co-hosting the ball. We're so pleased to have you represent the library and be with us tonight.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. I lost my partner, but she'll be back, I hope.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start with, you know what? We'd love to hear what inspired you to pursue the library science field of work.
Well, I was always a reader as a young child. I just loved books so much. And I knew that I wanted to do something that related to books and reading as my profession. And I was in book publishing before I became a librarian, and I had worked in my college library. And my job was not quite the right fit for me. And my colleague was talking to me about her friend in library school. And it was like this light bulb went off, and I said, "What's library school?" And then that turned into a conversation, which turned into me going to get my master's in library science, which turned into me being here with you tonight. So
Oh, that's great. That's fun. What a good journey. And right, isn't it funny how you didn't know it existed, and then here you are in this field and doing a great job. So thank you. Katie, you provided us with a quote that mentioned the library's role as a friendly and welcoming place for all, and we agree with you wholeheartedly. How, though, are libraries in general staying relevant in the age of internet, and what role do you see the Lenox Library playing in our community now and in the future?
I think libraries have always been about connection. And so it may be in different forms, or we maybe be providing people with different formats of books, from ebooks to computers to the physical book that I know a lot of us still enjoy. But it's about that space, I think, especially in small communities, but in large communities as well, having a place where people know you, where you're greeted, where you're welcome to just be. And I think, especially in times like we're currently in, where it can feel really divisive out in the world, to have that safe, welcoming place. I was so happy to hear Bob's, take on our staff, that we just go out of our way to really welcome. That's so important to us. And so I really enjoy that aspect of serving in a public library.
Great, great. So I know you had a partner there. I was wondering who you're reading with tonight.
Asking, would you like to come up and join us? I think she was hoping we were number 5 because she just turned 5.
Oh, okay. Well,
We were a little bit ahead of things, but
okay. So maybe
so
next time
yeah,
we'll do
so
better
I think
planning.
she may not be joining us, but she did have a stack of books that she was excited to share.
Okay, yeah. Well, so what are you reading tonight?
So I read a lot of picture books with Audrey. So most of the books that I do for myself are via Libby on the app, and I listen to e-audiobooks. So I am currently listening to The Emotional Lives of Teenagers, because I also have a 14-year-old. And that's how I fit in time for myself to read. And it's really engaging and reassuring. And for those of you who've had teenagers, you would probably identify a lot of things that happen in the teenage years in these pages. But as a relatively new to teenagedom, as a parent, really helps.
Whoops, did you mute? I think you muted by accident.
There was just, I needed to
Okay.
take a breath. So I just read that one. Here's my plan. You want to share what you brought?
You want to show us a picture book?
No.
Not tonight. Okay. Oh, okay.
I also recently read this book called Never Enough: When Achievement Culture Becomes Toxic and What We Can Do About It, which was really eye-opening. And it's about parenting, but kind of just about how we push ourselves to strive and don't always take care of our mental health when we do.
Good, good. All right. Well, we'll let you go. Audrey, next time we'll plan better, and you can be number 5.
Do you want to show a book?
You want to show me your picture book?
Okay, we'll just.
Okay.
You want to stop your tears? Okay, well, I think if you show them the books, maybe that'll help stop your tears. Would you like to do that? Book she was going to share. Here we are in our household tonight.
All right. Well, I hope you have a good night reading and that you can find some joy in those books. Thank you so much. Okay, so from another part of town, we have a family of big library fans. So please join me in welcoming Dan Stern. Dan has written for several of the nation's top media outlets, including the New York Times, U.S. News and World Report, the Washington Post, and the Discovery Channel, covering a wide range of topics from science to pop culture to education. He's also taught creative writing, literature, poetry, and publishing courses at various institutions. Dan's wife, Danielle, has served on the library board of trustees since 2015. Dan loved picture books as a kid. Then he grew up and made two little kids of his own who also loved picture books. He has spent many nights tucking in his children, reading them classics and telling them wild tales. Many of those tales were simply versions of famous movies that he pawned off as his own, while his wife poured a lot of effort into making up imaginative stories from scratch. But some of Dan's tales were original creations. Barker's Wish is one such late night story, and it resonated so deeply with his children that they convinced him to turn it into a book. So Dan and family, welcome and thank you for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having us. And yeah, it's totally true. I would tell my kids made up stories at night that were like obviously like just pawned off from other movies. And it was great to see them watch movies like Star Wars and E.T. and be like, Dad, they stole your idea. Like we got to take action. I was like, you know what? Let's let this one slide.
What a great idea. Just to, because it's such a, you gave them a little bit of like almost like foresight into these movies, and wow, this is great. And then they can relate to it almost maybe even better.
Totally.
Yeah, that's really great. So we appreciate you being here, and we know your family loves the library, and we so appreciate your wife's contributions to the Lenox Library Association. So I just wanted to know if you have a little story about what the library means to you and your family, and any stories you could share.
Absolutely. When we first moved to town 10 years ago, Danielle was so excited to join the library in any capacity. She just loves words and books and reading. And I spent many, many hours in the dome room doing work and writing and reading myself. I love it up there. If anyone has not taken advantage of it, I highly recommend it. It's a pretty sacred space. And the kids absolutely love just not only the books and running around, but all the activities that the library does. So we just love, I always feel like the library is so central to the identity of Lenox itself. And it just represents what like a special old small town is all about.
Yeah, it's a very quaint library. And I love that you worked in a dome room. Unfortunately, right now the dome room is closed, so don't anyone come running up quite yet. We will be, it will be open at some point, but it's closed for some reconstruction, and hopefully for not too long, and we can get that sacred room back up and running. But we do, as you said, the library has so many great programs, and I'm so happy to hear that your family is taking advantage of those. So Barker's Wish, it's a very sweet book. And can you tell us about how you came up with the idea? And then also maybe tell us a little bit about the publishing process that you experienced.
Night and day experiences. Actually, do you want to say how we wrote Barker's Wish?
Yeah.
Because you were instrumental to it. He was the little baby at the time. But what happened?
He was telling me a story at night, and then he was telling me a story about a dog, and then I said, Dad, what if the dog didn't bark? And then we added a cat into the story, and I said, well, what if the cat didn't meow? And then
Right. He gave me the idea. We're just being creative. I truly wrote, I've done a lot of writing over the years. Most of the time it's hard work and a lot of struggle and mistakes along the way. This one came to me in like 7 minutes. I wrote it in 7 minutes, and the publishing process took 3 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was so comical and frustrating, but you know, the publishing realities, certainly with the modern era it's just roadblock after roadblock in terms of like getting a simple story out there, from like the legal aspects to the business aspects and the marketing aspects. And I've always just loved writing stories and telling stories. So it was just so funny to see this book out there 3 years after we had this little conversation in bed one night about a dog that makes different noises. So yeah. And we worked with a publisher, an illustrator, one of Danielle's good friends, who it was really fun because I'm not an illustrator, to just kind of share the story with her, just the words, and have her produce just really what I envisioned in my mind when I wrote this story, and just kind of have it manifest in these illustrations.
That's wonderful. And look, and there, all that hard work, the 7 minutes turned 3 years, and here you have a published book. Congratulations. It's great. And I know the library has a copy. So anybody who's interested in reading, if you haven't read it yet, you can certainly get it from the library. So one more question for you. So what are you reading tonight? What's the plan?
Well, he is reading this. You want to say what you're reading?
I'm reading a book called We Are Family and a book called Restart.
Did you get these at the library?
No.
No. Oh, no.
And who are the authors of those books?
The author of this book is LeBron James,
Nice.
and the author of Restart is Gordon Corman.
And
He-
so what are they about? Are they similar? Are they certain types of books?
They're both books about someone who has a challenge that they need to overcome and sort of restart, especially where they have to sort of restart something that they worked so hard.
it. You can explain it.
So in
They don't know-
Spoiler alert.
They don't know anything about the book.
so in Restart, on the first page, a boy falls off his roof and loses all memory of everything.
Oh boy.
He has to restart his life.
Yeah.
And then in We Are Family, this kid is really good at basketball. He's practiced his whole life at it. He plays it all the time. And then his mom loses a job and he stops playing, and it's like he's not as good as he was. But then once he's back on a team and restarts, he gets really good and then ends up winning.
Those are great. Those sounds like really, really good books. You're good books. That's so terrific.
I'm rereading Siddhartha. I've read this so many times, and I have all my little marginalia, in every page, and it's dated for the most part. And it's so funny to see how something I've reread 10 times in the last 35 years, every time I reread it differently. And I laugh at some of the comments I made from 10 or even 5 years ago. I'm like, how did I see it that way? So great book to reread. And I'm also reading The Gunslinger by Stephen King, which everyone tells me is great. And I'm trying to get to that point. I want to like it, but I'm not quite there yet.
Are you a Stephen King fan?
I love Stephen King. I love most of his literary writing. Like, a lot of people don't know that he wrote, the short stories that movies like Stand By Me and Shawshank Redemption were based on. His literary stuff is great. Some of his more, pop hits I don't love, but he's such an amazing, prolific imagination.
Yeah, I didn't know that about his literary writings. And those are some of the best movies ever. If anyone's ever seen them, they're really great. I didn't know he was behind those. Daniel, you reading anything good?
I'm reading something called Braiding Sweetgrass, which I
What?
love. Have you guys read it?
I've heard about it. I haven't read it yet.
It's all about indigenous wisdom and what we could learn from nature and environment. So I'm loving
Great.
it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So what are you eating or drinking anything special tonight when you read?
Oh yeah, it's Mike Hard Lemonade because Saturday night we go hard here.
And water of Stanley.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
everyone knows about the Stanley story when the Berkshires and everything.
Right. Well, that's great. I'm so happy you were here and co-hosting our second book ball. It's been a pleasure having both you and your family. And we hope that you enjoy all of your books and the rest of your evening.
Well, thank you for the invite and thank you for arranging this. This is really wonderful.
Good. Thank you. Okay, now we move on to our penultimate and our youngest host, Rosalie Cass. Rosalie is a 9-year-old Lenox resident and avid reader who picks up a book every chance she gets. When you can see from the slide that Rosalie is not afraid of big books, which have fairly earned her the reputation as an avid reader. Like her sister Eliza, who hosted the book ball last year, she comes from a family of book lovers. Her favorite place essay for 3rd grade class at Morris, Rosalie wrote about the Lenox Library. And in her essay, she said, "I love how librarians are really kind and I like that the books are really easy to find. Every book I read from the Lenox Library is wonderful. So welcome, Rosalie. We're so happy to learn that the Lenox Library is one of your favorite places. And thank you for hosting tonight. We're pleased to have you, an avid reader, and the Lenox student among us. So Rosalie, tell us, what do you love about reading?
I love that when you read a book, it's like going into a whole different world, and there are some things that might not really be true, but they're more exciting.
That's true. And it brings you into other worlds and maybe opens up doors and makes you think about things that you maybe wouldn't have otherwise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rosalie, do you have any special memory or a story about the library that you can share with us?
I don't really think so. All I can remember is I've been going to the library for a really long time.
Well, we love that, and keep coming, because we love having you and your family be such library advocates and ambassadors for us. So what are you currently reading?
Right now I am reading a book called Grump.
And what's Grump about?
It's about a dwarf who is not like the other dwarfs. He doesn't like to go deep underground, and he wants to go above ground and see the humans.
To take off on snow.
Sounds fun. That sounds good. And so we've learned that your family are big fans and library readers. And with this Zoom, when this Zoom is over, how will you spend the rest of the night with your family?
I'm gonna read this book, Keeper of the Lost Cities Unlocked. It is very thick.
Yes, it is.
And maybe after that, Dad will read us the book he's reading, and we're gonna have a drink called Cynic Cream that tastes like melted snickerdoodles.
And it's the recipe from the book.
The recipe is from the book.
Oh my gosh, that sounds fun. I love that you're incorporating something you're reading in a book into real life and bringing it into your evening. That's great. So now that book is a very thick book, as you said, so it makes you strong of mind, but it must also make your arms strong.
Yes, it does.
It does. Well, very good. I think it's so wonderful that you are such a good reader and not turned off or scared of those big books, and that you take these stories and turn them into real life, just like your cookie making tonight. So thank you. Thank you so much, Rosalie. And I hope you and your family have a fun time reading together and forever.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, before we get to your questions about our hosts, we want to welcome our Lenox town celebrity and entertainer, Terry Hall, also known as Terry Alaberry. So for as long as he can remember, Terry Alaberry has been leading at least two quite different musical lives. For over 45 years, since the mid-70s, he's been the drummer for folk legend Arlo Guthrie, recording, appearing on television, and performing concerts in all 50 states and many foreign countries. He performed at Carnegie Hall more than a dozen times and got to share stages with many other artists, including Pete Seeger, John Denver, Bonnie Raitt, Levon Helm, and John Prine. For over 30 years, when not on tour with Arlo, Terry has been performing for children and their families. In his own group, Terry Alaberry and Friends, entertains audiences large and small with original songs and highly interactive material. Terry has appeared in several award-winning PBS specials for children and has produced 7 CDs of original songs that have been recognized by multiple awards, including Parents' Choice Awards. He's performed at the White House 3 times for the Easter egg roll, and literally thousands of schools, museums, theaters, camps, and libraries all over the country. Wow, what an impressive life. And welcome, Terry. Terry, I think you might need to unmute. Oh, there you are. There you are. Terrific. Yay, there's Terry. Well, Terry, that's very impressive. And what a fun life, you know.
Well, thank you for saying all those nice things. But I grew up in Lenox my whole life. I'm one of the, not that many who actually have. And my father used to bring me to the Lenox Library when I was 5, 6, or 7. And I loved it. It was so much a part of my life. And I would take out all the books on dinosaurs, and I'd take out all the books on airplanes. And I just want to echo what Ruth said earlier. I think in our quest for technology, which is great that we can do this tonight, but libraries really serve as a focal place for people to get together and share experiences, and very important for kids to share experiences, especially coming out of COVID, where it's really been a problem. So libraries should be the focus of some place that your kids are safe and can relate to other kids. And that's why I think that's why I love the Lenox Library, and it's been a part of my life, my whole life.
You know, Terry, you're a big part of that because you draw in families every week during our summer reading program. And you see the crowds out there and the fun that they're having and the energy that you provide. And it's one of the most exciting and fun happenings during the summer. And we get so many people that don't have children that comment on, wow, what a fun program and how great it is. And we so appreciate you performing and bringing these children and families back to the library. So thank you so much for all of that and keeping a lot of energy and music and happiness with the community and at the library. So Terry, when I reached out to you, why did you decide to co-host the book call? What made you say yes?
Well, at first I was terrified, but I was very honored that you would ask me to be a part of it, and because I feel like I'm the one that gets the gift of being around during the summers and seeing all these kids and seeing their faces, and it's just a big deal for me, and I look forward to it every year. I can't wait until July and August come around and the library season really blooms, and it's a wonderful thing. It's a great thing that you do, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So are you reading any books tonight? Do you have any books that you plan?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I seem to be reading my own book, Just a Berkshire Kid. And I finished it so quickly, I moved on to more stories by Just a Berkshire Kid. I don't understand why. But on a more serious note, my brother, who I lost during COVID, wrote 53 books. They're all detective novels. And I'm reading one of those, one of his Puzzle Lady books. And I'm really excited because we found out that the BBC in England is going to produce 6 of my brother's stories. And they're about to start filming in Belfast, Ireland. And they're going to be shown on PBS Masterpiece Mysteries. So my brother's legacy lives on. And it also lives on in his books, many of which I believe are in the Lenox Library at this very moment. And
I'm sure they are, and if they aren't, they sure will be. And I'm so congratulations on that. That's exciting. And maybe I'll talk to Katie, and maybe we can figure something out to do when everything gets published. Excuse me, I've lost my train of thought. Would love to honor your brother when this all happens. That would be great. And back to your books that you read once or twice, if it's a good book, it's worth reading again. Right?
They're short.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you, if you could be a character in a book, Terry, who would that be and why?
Oh, let me think. Let me think. Well, I think I would like to be Harry Potter because it looks like he had a wonderful life and so many wonderful adventures. So I'll go with Harry Potter.
I love it. That would be great. You would be a good Harry Potter for sure.
Thank you.
Yes, you would be very good. Well, never a dull moment with Terry Oliberry, and we want to make sure that our community joins him this coming summer for endless fun and entertainment. And so thank you so much for joining us tonight. We hope that you enjoy your book ball reading tonight.
Thank you for letting me be a part. It was wonderful.
Great. Thank you. Thank you to all of our hosts and to all of our audience for attending the book ball this year. Before we move into our question and answer, I'd like to remind you that your donations support library materials and programs such as Baby Circle, Library Speakers Consortium, local history presentations, Tango with pre-concert talks, and much, much more. So remember, your support changes lives across our community. So now let's turn our audience and take some questions for any of our hosts. Please remember to use the chat icon, as this will be the place where we will monitor the live Zoom. So let's see, any questions? Let me go back here. So there's the live Zoom, and let me see. I think I see one. Let me just give me a half a second. So for any of our hosts or all of our hosts tonight, what is your go-to for finding your next book? I mean, is it in other words, is it the New York Times, Goodreads.com, Friends, Bookstore, where else? What would be your go-to? And when you talk, you have to unmute yourself. Anybody? Dan, what's your go-to?
My go-to source is, I mean, I always listen. Actually, one of the books I'm reading now is, where'd it go? Is a book on lucid dreaming that a friend recommended. Yeah, I mean, mostly friends, but like I'm so the type of person to always walk into a library or a bookstore and just see what's showcased and trust the judgment of the people who do that. That's the best way to see what's out there.
Yeah, good. Chris, yeah. Rosalie, did you have a way?
Yeah, I like to get books recommended from the librarians at the library or my sister Eliza.
Very good. Two great resources. Yeah. Bob, did you?
I look at the list in the Eagle and the Globe each week, and I immediately eliminate all the fantasy stuff that sometimes is at the top of the list because I have no interest in that. And then I maybe look up and see what the stories are about, you know. But also I take recommendations. I was going to read Demon Copperhead, and one of the guys I hike with said, you know, read David Copperfield first, you know. And, you know, there was that 900-page David Copperfield, you know, but I made it through. So I take recommendations from friends, and I also look at fantasticfiction.com, and I see the authors I like, and then I see what other recommendations are made by those authors. So.
Yeah, great. Katie, do you have a resource?
Oh, well, I mean, for my own reading, I think it's sort of things that I come across in my social media feed, which is mainly populated by libraries and book related and parent things. I often find like NPR books is a big thing. How do you pick which books you want, Audrey? You usually have an idea, and the librarians help us, the children's librarians. Yep. So yeah, my colleagues for sure. If I'm looking for something and I don't know what I'm looking for, like a gift for somebody, I ask my colleagues because they know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Good. Does anybody have a favorite author that they want to share that they feel that we should be mentioned on this call? Or maybe an underappreciated author?
I'll always be a proponent of Kurt Vonnegut. He was my gateway drug into reading. I hated reading until I discovered him.
Yeah.
I recommend him for all high school kids, especially boys who hate reading. Once they kind of discover that there's a different type of literature out there, it can open them up to a whole new world of reading.
That's great. That's great advice. Kurt Vonnegut, guys, listen to that. That's really good advice. Anybody have a childhood book that made a really big impact or created a first time emotion or anything that you recall a specific, reaction to a book? Anyone?
I'll go, Maria. But well, not that it evoked emotion, but my earliest memory was, and my dad would tell me this, I insisted that he read me Heidi over and over and over every day. And we live in the, oh, sorry, there's something on the screen that she can't see everybody. There we go. We live in a very wooded area. And so a lot of the illustrations of Heidi when she lived in the mountains, I just would kind of envision myself being Heidi. And my dad would read it to me every day, and he'd say, "Don't you want to read something else?" And I'd say, "No."
About being a mountain.
We do.
Yeah. Well,
Last house in 48755.
right. Well,
Yeah.
rereading a book as a child is, it's a common thing for people to reread because each time it gets in there and children learn a lot, and it helps to put all the synopsises here together, I guess. So, that's great. If you could only read, last question from me, unless somebody else has a question, if you could only read one book over and over and bring that one book with you on a deserted island, what would it be?
I think I would
Dan?
read, oh,
Yeah,
I'm not hosting, but
please.
I sat in the stacks, the Lenox Library as a kid, along with Terry. And the book I read, and I still read it many, many times, is Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island. And it just alerted me to books and to the fantasy and the beautiful nature of writing. And it was all sitting on the floor in the stacks at the Lenox Library, where the kids department is now.
That's wonderful. And Dave, and this, folks, everybody, this is Dave Hurst, who's on our board, and also his daughter Jillian and grandchildren were our hosts for the evening. So I'm so glad that you chimed in and shared your favorite book with us, Dave, and I'm glad that you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? And you know what? This is open to the audience now. So anybody else want to add anything about libraries, books, favorite books, memories, anything like that? Please feel free to just jump
Millie
in.
has a favorite book.
My favorite book is probably Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, even though I showed Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Very good. Harry Potter. A lot of Harry Potter fans tonight. That's wonderful. Anybody else? All right. Well, I think then we're just.
Oh, Maria, Audrey wanted to share her favorite book.
Oh, please. I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
I got lots of favorite books.
She has lots.
But I want to control that I have a big. I want to pick
Okay, she wanted to show, this is a library, but we have a whole stack of library books at home now, but this is what we're reading. It's a 5-minute Peppa Pig stories.
So we got it.
Oh,
Lenox
very
Library.
at the library. Great.
I love this book.
I love it. Judy or Christine? Let's see.
Yeah, I'll just say that I think the book that really I first remember reading was The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. And that just had everything for me. It was in England. There was a secret. There was a sick child. There was a child who was lonely. There was a mysterious, a father figure. So that was great. And then I remember reading this whole series of little historical books called Little Maid, like Little Maid of Concord Town and Little Maid of Plymouth Rock, and all these historical novels, which when my daughters were the age that I was, then they read the American Girl doll history books. But for me, it was those books, and just the wonder, as David and Terry were saying, of walking into the library and feeling like it was just for you. And you could go into the stacks and find a perfect read, and you could sit on that little green leather sofa that was in the children's section then, or the little window nook, and just lose yourself in a book. And I still feel that way, and I love the library, and I'm very glad that we can all support it with this book ball.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here, and everybody. Christine is also a board member, and so we're so pleased that you joined us, and that we thank you for your service to the library and for sharing that memory. Funny, Christine, one of my favorite books was The Secret Garden as well.
Yeah, magical.
Yeah. So we have two more people. I know Eliza, but before we get there, Judy, you wanted to add something.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, Judy, please. Yes.
Well, when I went to the library, somebody told me I like short stories. I like a short story. And so they advised me to read Liam O'Flaherty. Can you see this?
I can't see it. Do you have maybe you can
Oh, I don't know. What am I supposed to do?
Turn your camera on. Let's see if
How do I do that?
Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think we just asked you to start your camera. There you are. There we go. Yes.
So this is one of 3 books of short stories by Liam O'Flaherty that I was told, and I just love the stories. They're very simple stories of human nature, and they're quick read, and I just love him. I think, I don't know, has anybody read any of Liam O'Flaherty? Any of his books? Short stories?
I have
No?
not, but I love that you got that. It was a recommendation from the library and that you're enjoying it so much. That's
Oh,
really, that's
wonderful.
what makes the library so wonderful.
Yes.
Yep,
yes.
that we were able to do that. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I know Eliza wanted to share something this evening. Eliza, are you still with us, hon?
Yep, I am.
Here we are.
So one of my favorite series is Wings of Fire. And I just wanted to add that tonight my dad is probably going to be reading us Ender's Games. It's one of his favorite books.
That's great. So you're reading on your own and then your dad reads with you. So that's such a beautiful family event, coming together, that you have read alouds or it's really special what you have in your family. That's very good. And our tech, I'm just going to add, our tech person, Jeff Lynch, said one of his favorite books is Black Swan Green by David Mitchell. And I don't know if anybody's ever read David Mitchell, but he's a really terrific writer. So Black Swan Green was he wanted to make sure we got that in there. So, well, does anybody else have anything they want to add, or any questions or books sharing?
I add one quick thing.
Sure.
I just wanted to say that the very first song that I ever wrote of my own is called The Midnight March of the Dinosaurs. And the reason that I wrote it was from coming to the library for all those times when I was 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I would take out every book about dinosaurs. And I just loved dinosaurs. So when it came to trying to write a song, I had to write about something that I really loved and knew about. And it's still my favorite song.
Well, will you share that? Will you share that? Yeah, this summer. Will you share it this summer when you perform?
Oh, yes.
And make sure you let everyone know you got your inspiration from the library.
I shall.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you all. I mean, we're so happy that everyone was here tonight, and that you were able to be here. This marks the close of the Stay at Home and Read a Book Ball. Thank you for participating, and have a ball letting the pages of your book transport you to another world. Good night.
Thanks, Maria.
You're welcome. Thank you.